Ladies and gentlemen, imagine this. You wake up tomorrow and every form of money, cash, coins, cards, digital wallets, vanishes. No prices. No salaries. No savings. Just chaos. Suddenly, we realize something profound. Money is not just paper or numbers, it's the invisible force holding our world together. But how did this force begin? Long before banks, ATMs, or cryptocurrency, humans survived on barter. A farmer traded wheat for a pot, a shepherd exchanged wool for salt. But barter had a problem. What if you had wheat and wanted shoes, but the shoemaker didn't need wheat? This double coincidence of wants pushed humanity to search for something better. That something was money. First came commodity money, things everyone valued: shells, cattle, barley, metals. These weren't just objects, they were early trust systems. Then societies discovered metals like gold and silver, durable, divisible, and universally desired. Kings began stamping coins, guaranteeing weight and purity. Trust grew. Centuries later, carrying metal became too heavy, so people stored gold in banks and used paper receipts. Those receipts, simple pieces of paper, slowly became what we now call currency. Not because they had value themselves, but because people agreed to believe in them. And that belief changed the world. Today, money no longer needs shape or weight. It moves online at the speed of light. Through digital banks, apps, and cryptocurrencies. Yet its core purpose remains: to store value, measure value, and exchange value. So, when we ask how money was invented, the real answer is this: money was invented the moment humans chose trust. Trust in trade, trust in value, trust in each other. And that trust, more than gold, paper, or code, is the true foundation of every economy on Earth. Before money existed, human trade relied entirely on one simple system: barter. It was the earliest form of exchange humanity ever used, a system built on direct trade: your goods for mine, your service for my service. At first glance, barter seems straightforward. If a farmer had extra grain and needed pottery, he would find a potter willing to trade. If a shepherd had wool but needed salt, he would find someone who had salt and needed wool. For small tribes and slow-moving communities, this system worked well enough. It was personal, immediate, and rooted in mutual need. But as societies grew, barter exposed its biggest weakness: the double coincidence of wants. In order for a trade to happen, both people had to want exactly what the other was offering at the exact same time. Imagine a fisherman needing vegetables while the farmer needed shoes, not fish. The fisherman could not simply trade, even if his fish were valuable. He first had to find a shoemaker who wanted fish, then hope the shoemaker wanted vegetables, and then hope the farmer wanted shoes. One simple trade could turn into a long, exhausting chain of negotiations. Barter also struggled with measuring value. How many baskets of apples equal one goat? How many hours of carpentry equal a sack of wheat? Value became confusing and inconsistent. People argued, disagreed, or walked away from opportunity simply because there was no clear and fair way to compare goods. Another major problem was storage and portability. Some items spoiled quickly: meat, fruits, milk. Others were too large or too heavy to carry long distances. A man with 10 cows could be wealthy, yet unable to trade even one if the person he met had nothing equally valuable to offer. These frustrations pushed humanity toward a powerful realization: trade needed a common language. A universal medium. Something everyone trusted, accepted, and recognized, no matter what they personally needed at that moment. This simple need for easier exchange sparked the birth of money. Commodity money emerged as one of the most significant breakthroughs in human economic history, and it didn't appear suddenly. It grew naturally from the frustrations of barter. As people struggled with unequal trades, inconsistent values, and the constant search for someone who wanted what they had, societies began looking for specific items that everyone universally accepted, regardless of personal need. These items eventually became what we call commodity money, and they transformed the way humans interacted, traded, and built communities. Early societies experimented with many different commodities. In coastal regions, seashells became a popular medium of exchange because they were rare, beautiful, and difficult to fake. In colder regions, animal skins and furs became valuable, especially among tribes that depended on hunting. Agricultural communities often used grain, barley, or salt as a form of money. These were essential to survival, so everyone recognized their worth. In fact, the word salary comes from salarium, meaning payments once made in salt. What all of these early commodities shared was universal desirability. Even if someone didn't personally need a seashell or a piece of metal in that exact moment, they knew someone else would. This created a chain of trust. People accepted the commodity not because they wanted the object itself, but because they were confident others would accept it later. That trust was the beginning of real economic stability. Over time, communities refined their choices. They discovered that some commodities were better than others. Grain could rot. Animal skins could wear out. Seashells could break or be collected too easily. Slowly, societies gravitated toward commodities with specific qualities: durability, portability, divisibility, and rarity. This is why metals, especially bronze, copper, silver, and gold, began to rise as the most reliable forms of money. Metals didn't spoil. They could be melted, shaped, or cut into smaller pieces without losing value. They could be stored for long periods or transported across vast distances. They were difficult to mine, which meant they remained scarce and valuable. As metal use spread across civilizations, commodity money helped trade expand beyond local villages. Merchants could travel long distances, carrying something small but valuable to exchange anywhere they went. Kingdoms, empires, and trade routes flourished. Commodity money allowed human societies to grow more complex, more organized, and more interconnected. Most importantly, commodity money shifted the way people thought about value. Instead of focusing only on immediate needs, they began thinking in terms of stored value, something that could be saved, invested, or exchanged later. This idea, simple as it seems, laid the foundation for all future economic systems. Commodity money wasn't just an object, it was a turning point. It marked humanity's first step toward creating a system based on shared belief and universal trust, setting the stage for coins, paper money, and eventually the digital currencies we use today. Metal coins became one of humanity's greatest economic inventions because they solved problems that both barter and simple commodity money could not fully overcome. Before coins, people used metals like gold, silver, bronze, and copper by weight. This was progress, but it still created uncertainty. Every time someone traded, they had to weigh the metal, test its purity, and negotiate its worth. Two pieces of silver might look similar but have very different values. Trade was still slow and filled with doubt. Human societies needed something more reliable, something that combined value with trust, clarity, and convenience. This need gave birth to metal coins. The earliest civilizations, Lydia in ancient Anatolia is often credited among the first, discovered a powerful idea: if a trusted authority stamped a piece of metal with a seal, people would no longer need to weigh or test it. The stamp acted as a guarantee. It told everyone, this coin contains this much gold, silver, or bronze, and its value is official. With that simple mark, trust became transferable. A metal piece once just a lump became standardized money. The impact was enormous. Suddenly, trade became faster and more predictable. A merchant could travel hundreds of miles and trade with strangers simply because they recognized the king's seal on a coin. People no longer needed to carry large quantities of grain, shells, or livestock. A handful of coins could represent months of work or years of savings. This portability encouraged long-distance trade across regions, rivers, deserts, and seas. Coins also helped governments grow stronger. Rulers controlled the minting process, ensuring stability, or in some cases, even manipulating coins during wars or crises by reducing metal content. But overall, standardized coins unified economies. They allowed taxes to be collected fairly and armies to be paid consistently, strengthening entire kingdoms and empires. Roads, markets, and trade networks flourished because everyone agreed on the value stamped into a coin. For everyday people, coins brought a sense of fairness and clarity. Prices became more consistent. Value became easier to measure. Instead of arguing how many bags of grain equal a cow, communities now had a universal measuring stick. A coin was not just money. It was a language everyone understood. Over centuries, coins became more detailed, featuring portraits of rulers, symbols of power, and messages of authority. These engravings reinforced trust and reminded people of who guaranteed their economy. Coins became both a tool of trade and a symbol of stability. The invention of metal coins was more than a step forward in currency, it was a leap in human civilization. It transformed how people traded, traveled, saved, and planned for the future. Above all, it strengthened the core idea behind money: shared trust. Without coins, the global economies we know today could never have been built. Paper money did not appear suddenly, it evolved slowly from a simple, practical solution to a much larger, more powerful system of trust. After centuries of relying on metal coins, societies eventually faced a problem: coins were heavy. As trade expanded and merchants began traveling long distances, carrying large amounts of gold and silver became risky. Long journeys meant the danger of theft, loss, or simply the physical burden of transporting heavy metal. This challenge pushed humanity toward another major financial innovation: the shift from metal money to paper currency. The earliest form of paper money was not invented as money at all. It began as receipts issued by goldsmiths and early bankers. People would deposit their gold for safekeeping, receiving a paper note that promised the exact amount of gold stored. These notes were originally meant only for the depositor's personal use. But soon, something remarkable happened. Instead of returning to the goldsmith to retrieve their gold, people began trading the paper receipts themselves, because the paper represented real value. If the note promised 10 gold coins, anyone holding the note essentially owned 10 coins. This practice spread quickly. The receipts were light, easy to carry, and far safer than transporting bags of gold across distant markets. Over time, people realized it wasn't necessary to trade the gold itself, the promise of gold was enough. That simple realization laid the foundation for paper money. Governments eventually stepped in and standardized these paper notes, giving them official status. At first, these notes were fully backed by metals, particularly gold or silver. This was known as the gold standard, where every piece of paper corresponded to a specific amount of precious metal stored by the government. This system strengthened trust and consistency, allowing paper money to spread across continents. But as economies grew larger and more complex, it became impossible to tie every piece of currency to actual gold. Nations needed flexibility. Governments needed the ability to create money during emergencies, fund development, and respond to crises. So the direct link between paper money and physical gold was slowly removed. The world shifted toward fiat currency, money that holds value because a government declares it legal and because people collectively trust it. This was not a downgrade. It was an evolution. Modern paper money is powerful precisely because it is not limited by the physical supply of metal. Instead, its value comes from economic stability, national credibility, and shared belief in the financial system. Today, when you hold a paper note, it is no longer a receipt for gold. It is something even bigger, a symbol of collective trust, supported by entire financial institutions, governments, and economies. That trust makes trade possible, enables growth, and holds modern societies together. The invention of paper money wasn't just a change in material, it was a transformation in how humanity understands value itself. The idea of trust has always been the real engine behind money, and in today's world, that truth is clearer than ever. Whether we talk about paper cash, bank balances, or digital payments that appear and disappear with a tap on a screen, the foundation remains the same: money works only because people collectively believe it works. This simple yet powerful idea is what has driven the evolution of currency from ancient commodities to the modern financial systems that run our lives. When money first began, trust was rooted in the object itself. People trusted shells, grain, or metals because they had physical value. As societies advanced, that trust shifted to the stamp on a coin, representing the guarantee of a ruler or nation. Later, when paper money emerged, trust moved again, this time to written promises, signatures, and the reputation of governments and banks. What is extraordinary is that each step forward brought us further away from physical value and closer to pure belief. Today, nearly all global money is digital, numbers glowing on screens, stored in servers, moved through invisible networks. You cannot touch it, weigh it, or hold it like gold. Yet billions of people use it every day. Why? Because they trust the institutions behind it, the laws protecting it, and the shared social agreement that those numbers represent real value. When your salary appears in your bank app, you accept it without ever seeing the actual cash. That trust is what fuels entire economies. Even new forms of money like cryptocurrency depend on trust, trust in code, trust in decentralization, or trust in a community of users. People invest in digital coins not because they can touch them, but because they believe in the system backing them, whether it's blockchain technology or the collective confidence of millions of holders. If trust breaks, money collapses. History is full of examples: hyperinflation, failed banks, economies where people reject a currency because they no longer believe in its stability. No matter how advanced or modern money becomes, it is only as strong as the faith people place in it. That belief allows a small paper note or a digital number to buy food, build businesses, or move nations. So when we look at the journey from barter to digital currency, the most powerful truth is not in what form money takes, but in why it works. Money functions because humanity agrees to trust a shared symbol of value. It is a collective promise, one we renew every time we accept a coin, swipe a card, or make an online payment. And as long as that trust remains, money, whatever shape it takes, will continue to hold our world together. From the earliest days of barter to the rise of coins, from paper notes backed by gold to the digital currencies flowing through today's global networks, the story of money is ultimately the story of human progress. It is the story of how we learn to trade, to cooperate, and to build trust far beyond our immediate needs. Money did not shape civilization by accident. It shaped it because it gave people a way to measure value, store value, and exchange value with speed, confidence, and fairness. Every transformation, from shells to screenshots, brought us closer to a world connected by shared belief rather than physical goods. And in the end, this is the greatest truth of all: money is not powerful because of the material it is made from. Its power comes from us, from our trust, our agreements, our willingness to believe in a system larger than ourselves. As long as societies continue to trust in value, trade will flourish, innovation will grow, and the engine of human progress will keep moving forward. So when we ask how money was invented, what we are really asking is how humanity learned to trust each other enough to build an entire world upon that trust. And that journey, more than any coin or currency, is what truly defines the evolution of money.